New Sarah Boone letter. All right, I have no idea what this is going to say, so we're going to read it together. All right, so this is from June 29th, so almost an entire month ago, but she did say she revised it. So this is her revised letter that she gave to the court and brought in hand. Where do I even start? Through the officer/inmate grapevine and a letter I received from my fan mail, and usually the only way I find out regarding my case, since there is no communication from my current attorney, parentheses, now 10 weeks of complete silence, and yes, my sixth attorney, which I will clarify momentarily, I was made aware my last letter was featured on the news locally, realistically, meaning globally. Apparently, my very legitimate, lawful, real questions and concern I asked and am still caused a stir on top of the already engulfing whirlpool my case has become and made out to look like, which it is not. Hence, my previous questions from said letter. I am trying to protect and maintain my truth, which no one knows, since no one else will. However, I can and keep some of the illicit ugliness at bay, mismanaged at its finest in everything. Some of this is a little disjointed. Why wasn't I included at all? Why wasn't I asked prior to being highlighted so I would know what was said or asked or criticized so I could rightfully defend myself? What was so newsworthy? By not including me is unfair and adds to the assumptions of what everyone wants me to end up being and thinks I am. This is wrong and also adds to the prejudgment of my case. All of the idiotic theories, empty opinions, false accusations is all the ignorant world knows from all the pertinent private case details available to everyone except me, the defendant in my case. How can I defend myself? I can't. So everything gets meaner, more evil, corrupt, and out of control. So again, regardless of what anybody thinks about Sarah Boone, it sucks that her attorney is still not talking to her, if she's telling the truth, of course. It sucks that she doesn't know what's going on in her case. It sucks if everybody's condemning her for writing these letters and asking the questions. Now, knowing that these are going on the news, and I think we could tell from some of the previous ones that we read that she knew that these would be reported on, that people would be talking about these. So I don't think that she can claim she is still surprised by that. At this point, I think that she knows that this is going to get picked up and talked about because people are talking about her case because it is newsworthy. It is a newsworthy case. I believe this is what a trial is for, right? The world is supposed to learn everything about my case during the trial, right? This is not justice or a system, right? All fairness has been completely removed. So if she's worried about the reporting affecting the jury pool, she's right. These are questions that her lawyer should ask during jury selection. I think that's going to be a very big part of it and a very important part of it. But the world does find out whatever is public before the trial. And that's part of the public access to the court system, because a lot of times, sometimes we can find out maybe something was let in or wasn't let in that should have been. And we can say that was not fair that they didn't let this in. We think this should have come in. Now, if you're a layperson and you don't understand the rules of evidence, maybe sometimes you can be wrong and think something should come in that shouldn't. But sometimes you can be right. And that can be a reason for an appeal, or that can be a reason that she didn't get a fair trial. So sometimes knowing things that don't come in at trial can affect the process and can be important to public access to the courts. So we can see, are judges being fair, or are they being one-sided and letting everything in that's bad for the defendant and nothing in that's good for the defendant? That's why sometimes we as the public know things before the trial actually starts. So were any of my questions answered? Was anything at all clarified regarding evaluations, amendment violations, case sensitivity protection, and suppression? What's the video hit count reached now? My last letter, it was over 3 million. How much does that shareable income make for everyone? Did anyone locate my attorney or discovery? Everything everyone everywhere in the world knows, has seen, or listened to. All of my discovery, again, except me. Well, now she's saying it's her discovery and she doesn't know about it. but she's also saying everybody only knows one side of the story, not hers. So which is it? Is everything out there or is nothing out there? In the meantime, here's a comer piece to my convoluted puzzle. I don't know if I'm misreading that. All other wondering when it will finally be put together to see what the neat picture is, and also a huge disentanglement of only an inkling of some of the misunderstandings and ignorance swirling about my case. Before you try wearing my slides, know where they've been. Okay, now this is like some of this verbiage and way that she's writing here to me is a little like she knows people are going to be reading it. I'll just put it that way. My attorneys, 6. When, and as I've said numerous times in my previous letters, why not by choice, I am on my 6th attorney. Here is some clarity so everyone can finally have some understanding why my slides are so worn, but most definitely walkable still. So I meant to mention above when she asked the court about, well, what's going on here? What about my amendment violations? What's going on with suppression and protection and evaluations? Those are conversations between her and her lawyer, not the judge. So that's why the judge is not answering those questions. But we get the answer here from the horse's mouth here, from Sarah Boone. Why 6 lawyers? Why does she have 6 lawyers? From her perception. Here we go. Attorney number 1, private attorney. From February of 2020 to May of 2022, this attorney sold me the world, promised me exoneration, and supplied an overabundance of other continuous false hopes so I would accept his offer to become my attorney. He had no idea what my case was going to be or was really about. Then he deserted me, his client, naive and new, 2 weeks before my first scheduled trial due to irreconcilable differences. So again, when we talk about why she waived speedy trial, probably because her private attorney was making her promises. Now, is this true? Is this her perspective? That's up for discussion, right? And interpretation. But at least we can see it's plausible why she would waive her speedy trial. Meaning I was not persuaded enough to agree with what he wanted me to say or do, and was not what happened. Okay, so there's a little more insight. Again, she is waiving her own attorney-client privilege by giving us these details. This is the type of stuff the judge was trying to tell her, hey, you might not want to do this. Are you sure you want to speak in open court under oath? Are you sure you want me to, these letters go public now. This is no surprise to her. She knows this. She mentions it in this letter. And she just said, her lawyer could not persuade her enough to agree with what he wanted her to say, and was not what happened. There was no trust. There was no strategy. And if there was, I was never included in on it, or an innumerable amount of other case-defining details and questions left unanswered before going to trial. I felt he was sabotaging my case and setting me up for failure due to his micro amount of experience, which I found out after the fact and was not disclosed prior to my acceptance of his representation. In my macro-sized case, nonetheless, when we did meet to discuss my case and I asked for updates about any progress, he would start talking to me about his client in Colombia, his clown of a sister-in-law, his nephew going to water parks, trips he's taken, his regrets, where he bought his gold sneakers, and many other unrelated, unimportant, time-consuming stories. All the while, I'm trying to figure out what's going on and why he's not answering any of my questions. Nothing was ever completed or accomplished or communicated, building 1,000 fires waiting and needing to be put out before making another to be left ablaze. I was always ignored and in the dark, conjuring the dreadful perpetual question mark looming still over my head. So much I prepared an 8-page packet for the judge, Wayne Wooten, to provide during both court dates, defending myself against my attorney's untrue, unresearched withdrawals. No one asked me nor permitted me to speak my truth to help him and the court understand my real concerns along with all the carryover since day one. I was trying to avoid going through any of this again going forward. I had already been 2.3 years. I wanted the judge to include me and know I have a side also. So before we go to the next page. So a lot of people are like, hey, how do you know? Give the lawyer the benefit of the doubt. And when I say with the current lawyer, if he has literally not spoken to her in 10 weeks, that is horrible. You cannot do that and should not do that to your clients, especially when their trial is coming and their life is on the line. However, with comments like this, he never listened to me. He wouldn't do what I said. He would talk too much about his family and waste time. This to me is all about perception and sour grapes. This is different than not talking to me about my case at all. Saying your lawyer sucks and he doesn't have enough experience and he's not a good lawyer while you're in prison because you guys couldn't come to an agreement or he thought you should have taken a plea deal that you didn't take, which it sounds like may be the case here. This is the type of stuff that I put a little less weight into and less credence in. You guys tell me if I'm way off. I think it is horrible for lawyers not involving her, not talking to her, not meeting with her, not showing her any discovery. But if he is meeting with her and then she's complaining that he mentioned something about his client in Colombia or something about his sister-in-law, it's like, now I just feel like you're trying to make him look bad. Just my opinion. Let me pause and get some. Oh, people are asking what a handicap means in a golf situation. You have a handicap, so like what you're supposed to shoot. So if you're a 9 handicap, you're supposed to shoot 9 over. So if you give somebody a handicap, that means to actually help them. So on some of the holes, John gets extra strokes, or John gets to move up to the kids' tees and play from there. He gets a re-putt or a mulligan. Those are handicaps. John, do you think she's planning the system some way, or does she have another cause? I think that she is hoping to, I think she thinks she's creating appellate issues. And I think she's hoping to get the judge on her side, that maybe the judge will feel bad for her, or maybe that she will badmouth her attorney enough to where he will work harder for her, which, just knowing a lot of attorneys, that's not usually a good plan and it doesn't usually work. But that's what I think she's doing. I don't think she's like gaming the system. At least it's not working the way that she thinks it might be working. Channeling the heart, Barbara Joyce. Sarah is getting a negative profile from the press. Her letters are spot on. She is not dangerous to anyone. Powerful men don't like mouthy women. So if you've followed me go through all of her letters, there are a lot of legitimate complaints. And this one started with another legitimate complaint. Being totally left out of your case, having months and months when your lawyer, court appointed or not, is not talking to you, not discussing your case, is horrible. And I think that that needs to be fixed. Now, if a lawyer's represented you for 2 years, met with you, talked to you about the case, thinks you should take a plea deal, doesn't think you should go to trial, maybe doesn't want to try the case or can't try the case or whatever it is, maybe there was a money issue. And she said, I'm not going to pay you anymore. And that was the irreconcilable difference. I don't blame him from withdrawing. Now, she could be right. Maybe he did nothing on her case, and then she's lucky that he's off her case. But some of it is left to interpretation, other is not. So the conversations weren't good enough, or he was too bad of a lawyer, is up for interpretation. My lawyer doesn't show up, and I can prove that, and he doesn't talk to me or call me or answer my calls, and I've called him this many times, reached out to him, written him letters. That's not up for interpretation. That's horrible, regardless what excuse the lawyer may have. Azam, since this letter is public, do you think she is trying to gain sympathy from people? Thanks so much for your time, Peter. It's possible. Maybe she's trying to change the narrative. Bodie, does she have access to the internet? So some do in some jail systems, like the news and stuff. So I do think it is possible. She also has access to people who have access to the internet. So even if she doesn't see it herself on like a tablet or things, depending on the jail and what they allow, other people can see this. Thank you, Brain Go Girl. And Ellen Hansen Hawkins for the super stickers. Let's get back to the letter now. Thank you, KNS. Plus, I knew Judge Wooten would be appointed my next. Oh, Judge Wooten would be appointing my next attorney in hopes that he would listen and appoint a more suitable, experienced one accordingly to save time for everyone to progressively move forward. He must have been throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded. Okay, so now that's throwing shots at Judge Wooten and future attorneys. Nobody's going to like to see this. Again, she thinks by being like this, it's going to make people feel like bad or guilty and then come on her side. Sometimes be like, well, you just kind of suck, hoping somebody wants to prove something to you. I don't think that's the reaction she's going to get here. This attorney, number one, is untrustworthy, unreliable, unprofessional, with poor leadership skills and extremely unorganized. He was unable to perform ethically and as an adult, ignoring his client, misleading and deceiving. He didn't even respect me enough to speak with me before his withdrawal to try and remedy or figure anything out to stop. It's like he's incompetent. He's horrible. He's unethical. He can't do anything. He ignores me. But then he wouldn't even reach out to me to see if we could work it out. It's like, doesn't sound like you want to work it out. And if a client says that stuff to you, a lot of times attorneys will feel like it's over. Like, she's lost confidence in me. The relationship is broken. We can't work it out. Thank you, Denise. And so these are the type of stuff that are frustrating to me. It's like, if you belittle and speak to an attorney like this, and you might be right, you should A, want him to withdraw, and B, he doesn't want to work for you, and he doesn't have to work for you if he's a private attorney. She was totally blindsided. It's like, well, if you treat people certain ways, they're going to respond certain ways. Because of the magnitude of his ineptness and dereliction of duty, as a result, withdrawing from my case at the 11th hour after taking over 2 years with nothing I knew of but disappointment. I could have reported him to the Florida bar for legal malpractice. Exhaustion 1. I'm also waiting on him to release all of my case files and documents obtained and accrued during his representation, including well over 100 pages of my handwritten notes and information, which is irreplaceable. He still is not helping. Him no longer being my attorney was not my choice. Okay, so he quit, not Sarah Boone's choice. Thank you, Brain Go Girl. All right, here we go. Attorneys 2, 3, and 4. Public defenders appointed by the judge/court. They were there from May of 2022 to June, so not very long. Judge Wooten in the court repeatedly appointed me public defenders without any research or care. And after I continuously explained to each and tried to the judge/court, they could not represent me due to their representations of the decedent. We've done our homework. I was told I received 3 withdrawals, not by my choice. Definitely not systematic. Okay, so this is a good point. So she is saying that the 3 public defenders they appointed her had all represented her fiance, who is the deceased and victim in her case. Therefore, they obviously can't represent her in this situation. Or at least she felt they couldn't. She didn't waive. So there were issues of conflict that couldn't be overridden. So I do think that number 6 is a little inflated when 2, 3, and 4 are absolutely not her fault at all. Because if she had the same complaints about lawyer number 1, and she complained the same things for lawyer 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now she's complaining about number 6, now you start to be like, is she the girl who cried wolf? I do think her complaints so far about the 6th lawyer have been legitimate. Number 1 do not seem as legitimate to me. It does seem like irreconcilable differences. So maybe that split appropriately, like a lot of attorney-client relationships do split. That's legitimate. That happens. You get in fights. You see cases different ways. I shouldn't say you get in fights. You have disagreements. You see cases in different ways. There's no way you can reconcile. Your client loses faith in you, and therefore you have to withdraw. Your client starts saying stuff like, you're lying to me. You're sabotaging my case. A lot of lawyers are like, listen, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want these accusations. If you want to report me to the bar, go ahead. They'll do an investigation, see that I was doing nothing wrong, and, bygones be bygones. Because some clients get into situations, and you understand, they're very stressed. They don't know what to do, and they say things that maybe they don't mean. Maybe they don't understand the repercussions of what they're saying or doing, and it can become very difficult to continue on. So that's the reason a lot of attorney-client relationships fall apart. Okay, attorney number 5. He represented her for an entire month, June of 2022 to July of 2022. Upon our first and only meeting, this attorney expressed his mass confusion and why he was appointed by Judge Wooten, as he was leaving for a teaching job out of Orlando within a week. I learned more from this attorney in one meeting regarding my case than all prior combined. It was extremely disheartening. He could not continue representation and set the bar going forward, especially regarding honesty and respect. I received only 2 letters from him. One introduction, one withdrawal. He also did not know where any of my discovery was or notes. Now, 5 attorneys later, not by choice. Again, she's right. Number 5, not by choice. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 were all not by choice that they left. Now, I would argue attorney number one was her choice. The way she talks about him, probably the way she treated, which I think we can infer by the way she talked about him, I can understand why he left. He stuck it out 2 years representing her. So I think he at least tried or attempted to represent her. Maybe he was a horrible lawyer. I'm not saying anything like that. But one seems to be by choice, which again is not crazy that it doesn't work out with your first lawyer and you have to go to a second one. 2, 3, 4, and 5, not her fault. And I actually think that's a bad narrative going forward and something that I spoke about too. Because I heard, wow, 6 lawyers, that sounds like a lot. But I said, we don't know why. We don't know why she went through this many lawyers. Now finding out from her perspective, if it's true, I don't blame her for 2, 3, 4, and 5, number one. And number two, saying that the fact that she had 6 lawyers proves she's a narcissist, proves that she's crazy, proves that she's guilty, proves that nobody wants to work with her, I think is an absolutely false narrative that is going on in the media right now, because lawyers 2, 3, and 4 had conflicts in the public defender's office with the deceased and victim in the case. And number 5 was leaving to be a teacher and withdrew from the case, and she wanted him to continue. So I do not blame her for any of those. And I don't think any of those make her seem more guilty because she went through that many lawyers. And now we know how it's been going with lawyer number 6. All right. Attorney number 6, conflict, appointed by the judge, July of 2022 to the present. 1 year mark, 7/11/23. 12 months summarized. 8 total months, 240 days and counting, where are with absolutely no communication in any form, completely inactive. Total amount of hours as court-appointed attorney, over 8,000. Total times met with me, 6. Total hours spent with clients, 7. That's horrible. That's horrible to be on a case for over a year and you've only met with the client 6 times. And you've only spent 7 hours with them in a case that's already supposed to have gone to trial. Total phone numbers given to client from attorney, 2. Total numbers that work, 0. Total time speaking to client via phone, 0. Total numbers of 15-minute video visits with client, 4. Total numbers of letters sent to attorney to communicate, 8. Total numbers of letters to the judge trying to communicate my unsuccessful communication with my attorney in hopes he will communicate with him to communicate with me, 7. Letters to other parties to communicate, 3. Total times in court, 3. 1 was attempted withdraw. 2 carry over and over. The last time I spoke with saw my attorney, May 18, 2023. Where is the progress after 1 entire complete year? Unknown. So again, this is even after the judge told him to meet with her more. And that is true. One of the times she met him and one of the times she came to court was for him trying to withdraw, which happened almost immediately on the case. Not great. I mean, this should let people, one of the lessons I think we can learn here is when you have an attorney, it's a private attorney, you've picked him, you're working together, maybe you should try to work things out and work with them and not belittle them and be nasty to them and create issues. Susan, the money issue was they were court-assigned lawyers and couldn't figure out who was paying. The first lawyer, she said, was private. So I think she was paying him personally. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe he took it pro bono for, like publicity or something. I don't know. Court-appointed lawyer. So you're saying she's wrong about the conflict. It was more about money. I don't know if that's true because there's no money issues with appointing a public defender. Can she not get bond? Is she a danger to society? Kat, I can't remember if she had bond or not and just couldn't afford to bond out. This is a question I don't know the answer to. Belinda, I'm no psychologist, but her narcissistic sociopathy is off the scale. It's all me. Thinking she knows better than any lawyer won't do her any favors. Exactly. And that's not really a great way to go about asking somebody for help that you need their help in a situation you can't handle on your own. Kayla, I know you have a lot of cases, but any chance you can cover Alexi Trevizio seems a lot to learn. Wonder what defense she will have pre-trial September. So this case and the Shaw business case are the ones that I'm not covering right now that I'm getting a lot of requests on. I have to look into it. It would be hard to jump in, but I will see. Jory, She's in Florida. Peter, you can take her on. Pass. Pass. It's gonna be a no for me, dog. And thank you for the super chat, Jory. All right, let's get back to it here. Everyone, please look on the Orange County, Florida Clerk of Court's website and see for yourself. Am I looking at it wrong? Reading the contents incorrectly? The mass majority of work seems to be from my correspondence, if not my letters. There's minutes, some live to view from my non-progressive, lackluster court dates stating the same information and same continuances. And of course, none of my comments, concerns, or questions from any. I don't just sit there, edited like my case. I mean, I don't disagree with her. We even talked about how it's like same reasons it keeps getting continued. The same thing keeps happening. It keeps getting pushed out. I don't disagree with her on that point. I feel it important also to communicate to everyone so you understand the undertaking it is for an inmate to attend court and why it is so important to me to have progress, to report, to make the day count. We are woken up at 3 a.m., taken to a holding cell, wait 4 hours, then taken to the courthouse and put in another holding cell for however many hours until court time, for only 5 to 10 minute opportunity in front of the judge to say anything, if at all. We understand, and that is tough, and I hate to see that, and it does seem very unfair, and especially this is why we don't want this to happen to innocent people, right? And why we do everything we can to presume people innocent, protect people innocent, give them the benefit of the doubt. But usually there's at least a certain amount of evidence against you to be held in prison without bond or with a very high bond that you cannot afford. And this is why you don't commit crimes, right? This is why you don't do things that end you up in prison. Now, there are the wrongfully accused, wrongfully arrested, innocent people that go to trial, not guilty verdicts. That does happen. But this is the best system we can put in place. It does suck. And this is why you don't want to be there. And this is part of the deterrence from committing crimes. Most court dates are court days, spending between 8 and 14 for little to no time to speak. It's important to me. We matter, hence my letters. What will be said for this one, I wonder. Like Lois looking to the skies for Superman, I'm hoping and praying for an attorney to step up and truly represent me with honesty, intensity, understanding, respect, and perspective. When they introduce themselves, they can me also, the real me, properly, not the Frankenstein monster I'm being so wrongfully and incorrectly pieced together as from all the propagandized, lucrative defamation and attempted destruction of my character and still intact integrity. Clearly, also, everyone can see all of the aforementioned information regarding my attorneys was never a strategy of mine, nor will be. Is it a strategy of the judge in court? Making accusations to the judge in court, it's not going to get you very far. It's not the way to do this, Sarah. Maybe she's looking for somebody to come and represent her like out of the woodwork and say, hey, I want to represent you. I don't know. Maybe she's trying to light a fire under Bankowitz. I don't think that's going to work. Maybe she's trying to get Wooten on her side. Again, I don't think if that's the motivation of these letters, I don't think it's working. Judge Wooten, will I be included, please, in my upcoming status hearing prior to my pretrial, which is also the 1 year mark of attorney number 6 on July 11, 23. Will I be permitted? I was not. Attendance from you, like all the news channels and professional YouTubers. I hope I finally see my attorney, whom will, I'm sure, tell me, as you so graciously explained to me in my last pretrial that I was made a part of, consuming my minutes of your invaluable time, that you and he have other clients. I am a client and have been for over a year with this attorney and paid tax dollars to utilize all of my available resources. So now she's saying she's paying for her attorney via the prior tax dollars she paid, including but not limited to a state government attorney appointed by the court. So she's saying because she paid her taxes, she's entitled to this. Just so you know, whatever, I don't need to get into that. And you will always have clients. You never know when you may become one yourself. Please do not discredit my truth. I am who, not what. Respectful and diligent, Sarah Boone. This was one of the tougher ones, in my opinion, to read and try to find understanding with Sarah Boone. I do think the most important thing I learned is that 6 lawyer narrative to try to make her look bad is not totally fair if her explanations are true and correct. Patty asks, is she writing this for public sympathy? Potentially. You let me know. Is it working in the chat? Do you feel sympathy towards Sarah Boone because of this letter? Let me know in the chat or the comments. Channeling. I disagree that she is overly contentious, but is a survivor. Those appointed attorneys should be reprimanded. So if you're conflicted off the case, it's not your fault. You don't like choose to do that. There are things and reasons that you have to be conflicted off the case for. So you can't be reprimanded for that. The prior attorney, if she reports him to the bar and they find wrongdoing, he would be reprimanded. Same thing with attorney number 6. If he gets reported to the bar and they find wrongdoing, then he can be reprimanded. And I don't think I said she was overly contentious. Maybe somebody said that in the chat. But if she spoke to her attorney the way she did in this letter, I'll just say this, if I was her attorney and this is how she spoke to me, I would respond by saying, I think you've lost confidence in me. I don't think we're seeing this case the same way. And therefore, I think it's better if I'm off this case. And sometimes that just is the best answer. So I'm not saying she said this to him, but we're reading these as her words. So we know she's saying them. So if they are directed at him, I can understand why he would want off the case. But I can also understand why you would disagree. So a lot of people are saying, yeah, I agree with the 6 lawyer narrative, but no sympathy for me. Bodie, we don't know what the plea deal was. We don't know. Seems like she doesn't want to admit anything though. So maybe if they would have given her, 10 years or something, if she pled to this and she's like, I'm not pleading anything, I'm innocent. It's her prerogative. Okay. A lot of people saying not a lot of sympathy at this point. Yeah. The deal master. I'm with you. She does make some decent points in all of her letters. I think she makes some decent points. Cat Yarb. Nope. I don't feel sorry for her. I remember her laughing at the suitcase as he was begging to get out. It's a very fair point. A very fair point. So Mimi L, her attorney probably knows she doesn't have a chance to win this case. That may be true. Okay. That may be true that he knows she doesn't have a chance to win this case. That doesn't mean that he can't get an expert, have him evaluate her. If they say she has battered spouse syndrome, that's fine. Put her up on the stand, let her tell her story, cross-examine the witnesses. Nobody else saw anything or heard anything. Nobody knows what happened before. Nobody knows what happened during. Nobody knows what happened after. Listen to Sarah Boone, and if you believe her, find her not guilty. You can do that as an attorney. And it happens all the time. Susan, people are judging her already. However, she deserves a lawyer. 100%. That is her right. That is her right. She absolutely deserves her attorney or an attorney. Yeah. Paraka. I have sympathy for her. Regardless what I think of her, she has her rights to a due process and to be treated as a human until the trial. I mean, you're still treated as a human even after the trial. Even if you're convicted, we still treat convicted felons as human beings. But Peter, if she's so smart, why doesn't she represent herself? She seems to know better. So people can be very smart and still not be the right lawyer for themselves. A person who represents himself is a fool for a client, right? That's the old saying. But I get what you're saying. And maybe I got to be honest. Maybe that's another example of her not being foolish because she believes she's smart, but maybe she realizes this isn't something she can do. Jennifer said putting her on the stand is a bad idea, but she isn't going to waive that right. 100% think she gets on the stand. I do too. Usually I don't know. But this case, I would bet she does. Bro, she needs Baez, Jory said. Maybe she should give him a call. Bodie asked about the internet so she could make her letters sound more intelligent. Outstandishing. If she lies under oath, is the court supposed to assume the truth? No. A lot of times courts can find that somebody committed perjury or lied, or find that the jury found that because they say something, the jury finds something exact opposite. So no, they do not just have to take it as true. They scrutinize it just like any other testimony. You don't take any testimony as true. No juror does either. Just because somebody gets up there and says it under oath doesn't mean you have to take it as true. The only time judges take certain things as true is when it's being argued in a light most favorable to the non-moving party. So if they put things in a complaint, then they have to take those things as true. And even if it's more like, even if those things are true, they would still lose. It's not actually saying that they are true or commenting on the veracity of a witness. All right. Elizabeth, I was watching a video of the 10 worst jails to be in. Boy, was that an eye opener, but I was thinking of the Miss Boone would be suited to a couple of them. Yeah, it's not a place you want to be. That's for sure. Okay. I appreciate everybody joining me. I'm glad we got to double up here and handle two things. Hit that like button if you haven't already. We are going to cut out this Sarah Boone video and probably play it again later or play it again tonight because we didn't promote it or tell anybody we were doing it. So I want to make sure everybody that might not be interested in the Long Island case but is interested in the Sarah Boone case, that they do get to check this out. I appreciate you guys, the two live crew here, coming and hanging out with me. As always, it's been a joy and a learning experience to hang with all of you. I appreciate everyone so much. Hit that like button on your way out. I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at Tragos Law is our handle. And don't forget to listen to the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.